From fantasy football to the discourse between frenemies, everything in between. Round 3 of the GOP debate, it's in the books. It's becoming obvious who's on the way out, but it's still more than a bit confusing as to the reasons some people are using to decide who won and who lost. Meantime, Hillary Clinton has slapped every American military veteran smack in the face, and President Obama continues to make America weaker than ever before. Arizona Senator John McCain is fuming, and he will air it out right here. Critics and friends have already started airing out their bouquets and barbs about Paul Ryan. Why should we believe the new Speaker of the House will make any difference in dysfunction inside the Beltway? Then there's the cop who did his job and was fired for it, and what it says about our whiny society that can't make up their mind about seriously protecting our schools. Break the mold, challenge the facts. Don't use the fluff. I'm Ed Berliner. This is The Hardline for Thursday, October 29th, 2015.
This is not a cage match. And you look at the questions. Donald Trump, are you a comic book villain? Ben Carson, can you do math? John Kasich, will you insult two people over here? Marco Rubio, why don't you resign? Jeb Bush, why have your numbers fallen? How about talking about the substantive issues people care about?
The traps were set, the softballs were tossed, and CNBC proved without question what a partisan disaster the GOP presidential debate series has become. But the post-game dissection of what happened Wednesday night in Boulder will hopefully cut through all the mess and whittle down a field where we are beginning to see the pretenders clearer than ever. So let's get into it. Fear not the outcome, because we have to decide who won, who lost. First up, national political correspondent for the Washington Post, Karen Tumulty, and also let's welcome writer for the National Review Online, David French. All right, let's get right to it. Karen, I start with you. It would seem to be, at least, that people are giving a little bit of a consensus that Marco Rubio won because he seemed, to many, to be the only adult in the room. Agree or disagree?
I think that he won for a number of reasons, and one of which was that he showed not only that he could take a punch, but he could hit back. And I think that for a lot of Republican voters, now that we're under 100 days out from the Iowa caucuses, as they are trying to figure out who their nominee is going to be, they're wondering, what is this person going to look like on a stage next to Hillary Rodham Clinton?
So let's then look at the other side of this here, David, because if people say that Marco Rubio won, everybody will then focus on one little instance that happened, and that's between Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush, the two frenemies, as I mentioned. Here's what happened.
You should be showing up to work. I mean, literally, the Senate, what is it, like a French work week? You get like 3 days where you have to show up? You can campaign or just resign and let someone else take the job.
You know how many votes John McCain missed when he was carrying out that furious comeback that you're now modeling it under?
He wasn't my...
No, Jeb, I don't remember... Well, let me tell you, I don't remember you ever complaining about John McCain's vote record. The only reason why you're doing it now is because we're running for the same position, and someone has convinced you that attacking me is going to help you.
So, David, if we look for the winning and we look at the losing, is that the moment that Marco Rubio won? And is that the moment, as some people believe, that Jeb Bush's campaign took a fatal hit?
I think that was devastating for Jeb Bush, because let's not forget that that exchange occurred right after Rubio had hit the ball out of the park on media bias on that same question. So just as the applause is dying down for Rubio, Bush comes in to make the same argument and the same case against him that Rubio had just rejected from the more leftist panelists or the more leftist moderators. So in context, that exchange, which was damaging enough, was even worse, at which point I think Rubio became the clearly won that exchange and had one of the two big moments of the night.
So, Karen, let's look at the other two issues here, the other two individuals that are being talked about a lot. Many people believe Ted Cruz, again, a master debater who just got it out in front, said what he wanted to say, said it succinctly, went after the media, too. But then Chris Christie also seemed to make some great points, some great shots. It didn't hurt that he went after fantasy football. But would you agree with those who say that pretty much Cruz and Christie also came out winners?
Oh, I think that is absolutely true. And you're absolutely right that you know, Ted Cruz's training as a debater going back to college really shows in settings like this. Chris Christie did not have a lot of time, but what he had, he really used, I think, to great effect. He came out of this very memorable. Of course, you know, we'll see how the polls shake out over the next week or so. But I think what you see today is a far more fluid Republican primary race than we saw 48 hours ago.
All right, now, David, then let me come to you on the other side, and this comes down to the two who were leading the polls coming into this, Donald Trump and Ben Carson. Trump basically seemed to lay back. Maybe he figured less is more. Dr. Carson didn't really seem to make any points here. How did they do?
Well, I don't think they really helped themselves or hurt themselves too much. Let's not forget, both of these gentlemen forged to the lead in the race in an atmosphere with very few debates and tend to do well in those long periods of time between debates because they dominate the media narrative. They dominate on social media, which is an underreported story here. Ben Carson is a dominant social media force. And so they've really prospered outside of the debate context. Now, Carson's had a couple of good debate moments, so I don't think this moves the needle on them much either way. And as far as Chris Christie, I don't think this moves the needle for him either. Sure, he had some moments, but I don't think there is going to be, and under any circumstances, a groundwell of Republican, especially conservative Republican support for Chris Christie. Now, that might be bulletin board material for his team, and I might come to regret saying those words. But I don't see it happening. I instead see him dropping out relatively soon.
Are we going to then look at this debate and say that we're mentioning a whole lot of names here, David, but the one that no one has mentioned is Rand Paul? It would seem as if he's missing from basically everybody's assertions here and everybody's assumptions. But it also seems that Mike Huckabee, too, while Huckabee got some time, you don't hear a lot about either one of these guys. Do you expect one of them then to take the heat and drop out?
I expect both of them to drop out, or let me just say this. I think both of them should drop out. I just wrote a piece saying that we need to be thinning this Republican herd right now, sooner rather than later. The large size of the field is, I think, becoming detrimental to the GOP. It's certainly detrimental to these debates. And a lot of these guys are in with minimal chance, just minimal chance. I think it's time that they begin to step aside. And as for Rand Paul, I think his campaign really died before it even started when ISIS emerged as a jihadist threat, and a lot of his anti-interventionist, anti-NSA rhetoric just didn't resonate with voters as much anymore.
Karen, what about John Kasich? Because he came out on fire, and even the day before, it basically sounded as if he is sick and tired of the Republican Party at this point. Anything he did that will push him forward, or is it too late?
I really think that at this point he is aiming his attention and his commentary straight at one state, and that state is New Hampshire. He is hoping that that is going to be his breakout moment. But I think that in some ways, John Kasich's biggest opportunity probably came a couple of months ago. And you talk to Republicans and they feel like he squandered it. So he is really sort of falling further and further behind.
And Karen, I only got a couple of minutes left here, but we need to mention Carly Fiorina as well. Oddly enough, she got the most airtime of anybody when you looked at the actual aggregate time. Did she say enough to get back into that top spot?
I think it was a pretty workmanlike performance. She was probably as good as she has been in the previous debates. But at this point, people feel like they've given her a look. I think if she is going to make any ground up, it is not going to be on the debate stage, but it's going to have to be out on the ground in organization and in getting some traction actually in the field.
With about a minute left, actually a little less than a minute, David, a quick comment from you. I guess if we're going to thin the field, maybe we thin the field and thin the herd out of commentators who ask really ridiculous questions.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, the moderators were a big-time loser in this debate. But you know what? There's another loser here, and that's the RNC, which keeps doing the same thing, expecting different results. It's time for the RNC to take greater control over the debate process, not delegate the questioning of the candidates to people who are obviously hostile to the Republican and the conservative point of view. And so, look, the moderators did what they were going to do, in which many people predicted that they would do. So the RNC needs to wake up and get realistic about the debate process.
We will see what happens come the next debate. We'll make that the final word. Karen Tumulty and David French, I want to thank you both for joining us. Trust me, we got a long way to go and a lot more to talk about before we get to Iowa. Next up, Hillary Clinton took a shot at our military veterans. She should know better and should know one man fears not straight talk on American defense, and he is not scared at all about calling out people like Hillary Clinton. That and more with Arizona Senator John McCain next on The Hardline. Now this promotional announcement. The shocking new book, Unlikable, The Problem with Hillary by Edward Klein, could well be his next New York Times bestseller. Called by some the most powerful expose on Hillary ever written. In Unlikable, Ed Klein offers a stunning, powerful expose of Hillary Clinton and her floundering race for the White House. With unprecedented access, Klein meticulously recreates conversations and details of Hillary Clinton's behind-the-scenes plotting. Klein also reveals the angry rivalry that still exists between Hillary and Barack Obama. Unlikable retails for $29.95, but now you can get it with this free offer. It's an almost $30 value, absolutely free. Just go online to newsmax.com/Klein or call toll-free 800-850-8749. The 2016 election is fast approaching. Get Unlikable. Be armed with the truth about Hillary. 800-850-8749 or newsmax.com/Klein.